The Chaos Reign. Chaos Reign presents interesting articles, many articles. Broadcast January the 17th, 2021. This is going to be very interesting. Enjoy.
The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where there's crime, corruption, violence, murder, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, what you're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos, and it'll take a greater or more extremer chaos to restore the order in which the world you live in today. Good evening, my people. This is Chaos here, Chaos Rain here. And tonight, change gears a little bit. Okay. Yes. Today we're going to go into some articles and some other things. But before I go into today's rhetoric, please go to talkrealsolutions.com. Under the website, you see not only lists of 3-point plan, you see lists of black banks. Also on the website, you will notice there are the latest articles, news, and events that's going on in the West, we call America, and potentially abroad. All that is on talkrealsolutions.com. Also on the website, you could donate as little as $5 or greater. The donation tab on the website. So if you feel inclined, donate to the content of Talk Real Solutions. You also will find Talk Real Solutions on Facebook, and there's also a like page. If I could pull it up, let me look for it. Yeah, I see it. You can find it there as well. The Facebook page, if you like it, you can also follow the show through Facebook as well. And there is a special chat, a private chat in Facebook where you can communicate and share from ideas to articles or things that you find interesting that's going on in the world amongst people. So if you hit the like page on Talk Research on Facebook, you might also be added onto the Facebook group chat as well. Also, you can find this particular broadcast and other unknown broadcasts on Talk Real Solutions on YouTube. So type in Talk Real Solutions on YouTube. Most of my broadcasts are on Chaos Reign channel. So if any would a thing that would happen on Talk Real Solutions, no needs, no worries. Most of the broadcasts I do on this particular channel and site also is carried over on Chaos Reign channel as well. So you will never miss a beat or anything that you like or don't like or want to go back or listen to Chaos Reign channel. All informations, like I always said, are out there in the website and also on Facebook and YouTube. Now, on to the matter at hand. As I pull up and repeat what is tonight's stream. Tonight, Chaos Reign presents interesting articles. Oh, and one other thing I do want to say. Today is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday today. And also, not only is today's Dr. Martin Luther King birthday, but today marks the 20th birthday of the well-known informational site we call Wikipedia. So, round of applause.
Yeah.
Double checking things.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it says his birthday was the 15th, so
Yeah.
I had to make a correction. It was the 15th, not the 17th. And sometimes I think they change the birthdays constantly, but yeah, the 15th of January was his birthday. So, and that was, I believe, a Friday. Well, today was his 92nd birthday. So I apologize, but nonetheless, today is Wikipedia's birthday, and a few days ago was Martin Luther King's birthday. So everything is added and lined up in corrections. So what article should we start off first? Well, let's work back and front. The first article, because I'm always hearing about what they call black fathers are the best dads. And somebody, for some reason, wrote an article on this. Article 1 is titled Opinions. The New York Times. Black dads are doing the best of all. And this is written by Charles M. Bowl. One of the most prestigious persistent statistical diligence of people who want to blame black people for any injustice or inequality they encounter is this. According to data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in 2013, in nearly 72% of births to non-Hispanic black women, the mothers were unmarried. It has always seemed to me that embedded in the if only black men would marry the women they have babies with rhetoric was a more insidious suggestion that there is something fundamentally and intrinsically about black men that is flawed, that black fathers are pathologically prone to this, what they call desertion of their offspring, and therefore largely responsible for black community dysfunction. Now, a lot of people say we don't make excuse for what they call dereliction of men and women, but mostly just to say a conversation is dealing with men. Men are prone to be derelicts. If you are a young black man or a man of any status and you've been raised by, let's say, one single parent on the average, then dereliction is pretty much a very all-time high percentage-wise, average-wise. But if you come with two parents, it is actually mitigated for less than 50%. That's just me. And I say it personally. And through any data, if there is any data, I consider it with a smile on my face. But nonetheless, I'm not going to my opinions or analysis on what was just said. There is astounding amounts of mythological loaded into this stereotype, one that echoes a historical of efforts to rob black masculinity of honor and fidelity. Josh Levy points this out on his new book, All In a chapter titled How Black Dads Are Doing Best of All, but There Still Is a Crisis. One fact that leaves Levy's quickly established is that most black fathers in America live with their children. There are about 2.5 million black fathers living with their children and about 1.7 million living apart from them. So roughly 4.2 million overall. Maybe that's somewhat considered fathers. So then you may ask, how is it that 72% of black children are born to single mothers? How can both be true? That's a good question. Here are two things to consider. First, there is a growing number of people who live together but don't marry. Those mothers are still single, even though the child's father may be in the home. And as the Washington Post reports last year, the share of unmarried couples who opted to have shotgun cohabitation move in together after a pregnancy surpassed shotgun marriage for the first time during the last decade, according to a forthcoming paper from the National Center of Healthy Statistics, part of the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. And there's a chart here. Fathers involvement of fathers with activities of children under the age of 5. Father living with children, here the Fed's rate mean of children daily. Hispanic 63.9%, white 73.9%, blacks 78.2%. And I believe this data is now roughly 6 years old now, because this article came out. When this article came out? 2015. So it's a little old, but the numbers probably have not changed since then. Maybe not much. Next, bother, dependent, or dress children daily. Hispanic men, 45.5%. Whites, 60%. Blacks, 70.4%. Next, playing with children daily. 74.1% for Hispanic. Whites, 82.7%, and blacks 82.2%. So not different from white and blacks in regards to playing with children daily. Read to children daily, 21.9% for Hispanic, whites 30.2%, blacks 34.9%. So that's roughly 35%. Now that is a very interesting data right there, that black men are reading to their sons and daughters. And they say that women feels that black men are not involved. It makes me wonder, too, as a black man speaking from my mouth, who are you fucking sucking that you cannot depend on to be around? Ladies, the question should be asked. Anyway. Fathers not living with children. Fed or ate meals with children daily. Hispanic, 8.6. Whites, 0. No data. Blacks, 12.6. Next, bathing, dispense, or dress children daily. Bathing, dispensing, or dressing children daily. Hispanic men, 7.3. White men, 6.6. Black men, 12.7. Okay. Next, playing with children daily. Men, Hispanic men, 10%. White males, 6.6%. And black men, 16.5%. Okay. Read to children daily, 0%. Whites, 3.2%. Blacks, 7.8%, roughly 8%. Now, I said, note many differences between whites, blacks, Hispanic, and fathers were not significant due to the margin of error. Fathers who live with some children and live apart from others were asked separately about each set of children, and their different answers were counted in the two different categories. Figures those not meet standards of reliable in precision. The source is the Los Angeles Times National Center of Health Statistics. Furthermore, the 2013 CDC reports found that blacks and Hispanic women are far more likely to experience a pregnancy during the first year of cohabitation than whites and Asian women. Second, some of these men have children by more than one woman, but they can only live in one home at a time. This phenomenon means that a father can live with some, but not all, of his children. Libs call these men serial impregnators. But I think something more than promiscuity and irresponsibility are at play here. As the Forbes report on Ferguson M.O., an important but unreported indicator of Ferguson dilemma is that half of young African American men are missing from the community. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, while there are 1,182 African American women between the ages of 25 and 34 living in Ferguson, there are only 577 African American men in this age group. In other words, there are more than 2 young black women for each young black man in Ferguson. In April, the New York Times extended this line of reporting, pointing out that nationally there are 1.5 million missing black men. As the paper puts it, incarceration and early deaths are the overwhelming drivers of the gap of 1.5 million missing black men from 25 to 54, which demographically calls the prime age years. Okay. Higher imprisonment rates account for almost 600K. Almost 1 in 12 black men in this age group are behind bars, compared with 1 in 60 non-black men in the age group, 1 in 200 black men, and 1 in 500 non-black women. For context, there are about 8 million African American men in that age group overall. Mass incarceration has disproportionately ensured young black men sucking hundreds of thousands of marriage-age men out of the community. Another thing to consider is something that the Atlanta Tanisha Coates point out in 2013. I think it's called Tanisha Coates. That's their, I don't know if it's a man or woman name. I don't know who that is. The drop in the birth rate for unmarried black women is mirrored by an even steeper drop among married black women. Indeed, whereas at one point married black women were having more kids than married white women, they are now having less. This means that birth to unmarried black women are disproportionately represented in the statistics. Now to the mythology of the black male dereliction as that. While it is true that black parents are less likely to marry before a child is born, it is not true that black fathers suffer a pathology of neglect. In fact, a CDC report issued in December 2013 found that black fathers were the most involved with their children daily on a number of measures of any other group of others. And in many cases, that was among fathers who don't live with their children, as well as those who did. There is no doubt that the 72% statistics is real, even and may even be worth some, but it is represented more than choices. It extends in the social context, one at odds with the corrosive mythology about black fathers. And that's the end of this article. So let's look at this. For this study, and this like nice little chart, I'm always hearing, and a lot of women don't want to believe that most of these men are not involved in their children's lives. But this is the day that was been revealed for last roughly 6 or now 8 years, depending of that data. And normally this article was written back in 2015. So it's somewhat old, but not too old. I feel that in my mind, why the average black father is involved is one of two things. Either the man has some adequate employment, which most black men are working because they're more than half that has kids or don't have kids or really don't have kids. And most men are working and making roughly 45 and higher. And depending on what type of job and hours they put in, they're going to be involved with their children. There's no way around it. I think when a lot of people that are surprised knowing about this is because they always hear the schism that these black men, the same black sons that most black women do produce with black men, that come up your yoni, you feel he's gonna come up to be nothing more or ain't gonna be nothing. He's gonna be probably a bum. He's probably not gonna be productive. He's gonna probably make bastard baby children. And this has been a rhetoric that's been going on in the black community for 40, almost nearly 50 years now. And sometimes as a man sick of it, but we gotta keep in mind the reason why most of them think of that because they might not grow and were raised around not only their mother but their fathers in their life. That is their biological father. And to find that, the men that do be or are derelict and avoid their responsibilities, there is consequence, fellas and ladies. You know what consequence you can give a man that doesn't want to be involved at all. You go down to the child support office and you slap that Negro or that man with a fine in the paper, a citate that you owe this amount of money monthly and all that stuff. And that's when he gets his act together on the average. And most dudes don't get the act together because sometimes the men, actually, sometimes the women that choose the men that they like to get knocked up on the average are, they're making bad choices overall, because you can't be a woman of any age feel that because you're getting that dick and you're giving that wop that there should not be no incentive. And I'm telling you, sweetie, that is a lie. If the man is not looking at you long term and go as far as make you wife, you should marry before you carry. And this is a sake for preservation for the man, because you are not safe if you're going that route as a man. So sit there just to have sex with random women or any woman, you're not doing yourself a favor, bro. Especially if you're not strapping up. Anyway, let me check if everything's still functioning before I continue. Yeah, it is. Okay, moving on. What's the next article? The next article. No, actually, I'll leave that one last. The next article I like to focus on is the sugar industries. Was saying 50 years ago, sugar industries quietly paid scientists to point blame at fat. Now, I know T.R.S. Thompson, me and him used to talk offline, and he has taken lengthy measures to improve his health for a 53 going on 54 in February man. And as you know from the old pictures to now, Tyron used to be a big man. And one of the few things that cause weight gain, or any American weight gain, is the overconsumption of carbohydrates, starches, and sugar. Not just the meat, but the starches are the most killer that causes excessive weight gain, organ failures, clogging of all intestinal and colons that will lead to obsessive obesity and all forms of disease, from cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it. Going into the article. 50 years ago, sugar industries quietly paid scientists to point blame at fat. And this is written back in 2016 by Camilla Demasuski. In the 1960s, the sugar industry founded research that downplayed the risk of sugar and highlighted the hazards of fat. According to a newly published article in JMA Internal Medicine, the article draws an internal document to show that an industry group called the Sugar Research Foundation wanted to refute concerns about sugar, possibly roles in heart disease. The SRF then sponsors research by Harvard Science that did just that. The results was in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1967 with the disclosure of sugar industries funded. funded. You hear that, Tyrone? This research and this article was presented months, I would say probably before you were just born. That's how old this research was done. 54 years ago. And look where we at now as Americans. Severely overweight and severely very toxicized by the diet, the Western diet. The sugar-founded project in question was a literature review examining a variety of studies and experiments. It suggests there were major problems with all the studies, the implication of sugars, and conclude that cutting fat out of the American diet was the best way to address coronary heart disease. Let's read that again. It suggests there were major problems with all the studies that implicate sugar and conclude that cutting fat out of American diet was the best way to address coronary heart disease. And we all know sugar turns into what? People fat. Yes. It is true. It is damn true. So, let's go on. The author of the new article says that for the past 5 decades, the sugar industry has been attempting to influence the scientific debate over the relative risk of sugar and fat. It was a very smart thing the sugar industries did because review papers, especially if you get them published in a very prominent journal, tends to shape the overall scientific discussion. Co-author Stanton Glatz told the New York Times, which I think is a link to itself. Let's click onto this link, see what's in this. And that's another article which I'm going to read later. Money on the line. In the article published Monday, author Glass, Kristen Curran, and Lauren Schmidt aren't trying to make the case for a link between sugar and coronary heart disease. Their interest is in the process. They said that documents reveal the sugar industry attempts to influence scientific inquiries and debates. The research notes that they work under some limitations. We could not interview key actors involved in the historical episodes because they have died. They write other organizations. We're also advocating concerns about fat, they noted. There are no evidence that the SRF directly edited the manuscript published by the Harvard scientists in 1967, but there is a circumstantial evidence that the interest of the sugar lobby shapes the conclusion of the review. The research say, for one thing, their motivations and intent. In 1954, the research note that president of the SRF gave a speech describing a great business opportunity. If America could be persuaded to eat a low-fat diet for the sake of their health, they would need to replace that fat with something else. America per capita sugar consumption could go up by a third. You get that? A third. Let's read that again. So it sticks on my head and sticks on your head. If America could be persuaded to eat a lower fat diet for the sake of their health, they would need to replace the fat with something else. America per capita sugar consumption could go up by a third. So I want that to marinate with y'all a little bit. Just a little bit. But in the 60s, the SRF became aware of flowing reports that sugar is a less desirable dietary source of calories than other carbohydrates. As John Hoskins, SRF, Vice President and Director of Research, put it in one document. He recommended that the industries fund its own studies. Then we can publish the date and refute our detractors. The next year, after several scientific articles were published suggesting a link between cirrhosis and coronary heart disease, the SRF approves the literature review project. It wound up paying approximately $50K in today's dollars for the research. All right. One of the research was the chairman of Harvard Public Health Nutrition Department and an ad hoc member of SRF boards. A different standard for different studies. Glatz, Kearns, and Smith says many of the articles examined in the review were handed selected by SRF, and it was implied that the sugar industry would expect them to be critiqued. In a letter, SRF Hickson said that the organization's particular interest was an evaluating study focused on carbohydrates in the form of cirrhosis. We are well aware, one of the scientists replies, and we'll cover this as well as we can. The project winded up taking longer than expected because more and more studies were being released that suggest sugar might be linked to coronary heart disease, but it was finally published in 1967. $54 years ago. Hickson was certainly happy with the results. Let me assure you that it's quite what we had in mind, and we look forward to its appearance in print. He told one of the scientists the review minimized the significance of research that suggests sugar could play a role in coronary heart disease. In some cases, the scientists allege investigators' incompetence or flaws methodology. It is always appropriate to question the validity of individual studies. Karen told Bloomberg via email, but she said, wait, hold on, what's going on?
Hey, Gary, NYC said the conference is locked and nobody can't call in.
All right.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Tyron.
Yeah.
I hope you listening to this about the sugar. I want you to ask one or two questions. Come out, open it up. I think this really is important because this article reveals the day when you were born, they did this study about sugar. And this was in the late 60s.
Okay, yeah, but I'm frying chicken. I eat late, so I'm in the middle of cooking dinner, man.
All right, well, when you finish cooking dinner, hope you call it. All right, let me continue.
Okay, bro.
Thank you. All right, sorry about that, guys. Let's continue. Alleged investigators' incompetence of flawed methodology. Okay, let me rewrite this sentence or this paragraph. It is always appropriate to question the validity of vitality of individual studies. Karen told Bloomberg via email, but she says the author applies a different standard to different studies, looking very critical at research that implicates sugar and ignores problems with studies that found it dangerous in fact. Epidemiologically, epidemiologically, studies of sugar consumptions which look at patterns of health and dis-ease in the real world were dismissed for having too many possible factors getting in the way. Experimentally, studies were dismissed for being too dissimilar to real life. One study that found a health benefit when people ate less sugar and more vegetables was dismissed because that dietary change was not feasible. Another study in which rats were given a diet low in fat and high in sugar was rejected because such diets are rarely consumed by man. The Harvard research then turned to studies that examines risk of fat, which includes the same kind of epidemiological studies they had dismissed when it came to sugar, citing few studies, characteristics, and no quantitative results, as Cairns, Glatz, and Smith puts it. They conclude that cutting out fat was, no doubt, the best dietary intervention to prevent coronary heart disease. Sugar lobby, transparency, standards were not the norm. In a statement, the Sugar Association, which evolves out of the SRF, said it is challenging to commit, or even from so long ago. We acknowledge that the Sugar Research Foundation should have exercised greater transparency in all of its research activities. However, when the studies in question were published, funding, disclosures, and transparency standards were not the norm. They are today, the association said. Generally speaking, it is not only unfortunate, but a disservice that industries funded research is branded as tainted. The statement continues. What is often missing from the dialogue is the industry's funding research has been informative in addressing key issues. The document in question are 5 decades old, but the larger issue is of the moment, as Maron Nestle notes a commentary in the same issues of the JMA Internal Medicine. And this is what he or she states. Is it really true that food companies deliberately set out to manipulate research in their favor? Yes, it is. And the practice continues in 2015. The New York Times obtained email revealing Coca-Cola's cozy relationship with sponsored researchers who were conducting studies aimed at minimizing the effects of sugar drinking and obesity. Even more recently, the Associated Press obtains emails showing how a candy trade association fund an influence study to show that children who eat sweets have healthier body weights than those who do not. Ain't that something? As for the article, authors who dug into the document around the funding, they offered 2 suggestions for the future. Policymaking committees should consider giving less weight to food industries funded studies they write. They also call for new research into any ties between added sugars and coronary heart disease. So this is the end of this particular article. And let me click on some of these. Well, the site cannot be reached. I wonder why. Let me go back up to one of the articles that I clicked earlier. Let me see if this is the one. What's this? I don't know what this is. Let me. How sugar industry shifted blame to fats. And this, all right, hold on, guys. I'm gonna read this. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna see if he'll do that again. Yeah, I'm not gonna read this one because this one's doing some funny shit. Actually, no. I think I can get bypass that. Hold on. All right, this should work. Hold on, guys. If I can get into this one, I'm just gonna read one more article. Okay. Let me see. And make sure you guys comment during this stream if you can. This should work. All right, that didn't work. Oh well. Let me try one more time. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to read this article. Oh well, I'll put this in the description. Oh, what is it? Okay. But overall, they know the effects of sugar in not only the body but also the brain, and it has detrimental effects, short term and long term. As y'all know, with having a high consumption diet of sugar, it's going to lead to a lot of problems. We all know we have loved ones that experience one of the few things and the following. One, having a diet that's dealing with high carbohydrate and sugar, which certain things will turn into sugar. Carbohydrates do turn to sugar. One that is evident, it will increase the risk of cancer by a high percentage. Because as you know, the cells don't function well when oxygen is deprived. And consuming sugar, it draws in water out your cells and also separates oxygen in your cells too. Not only that, it also increases the risk of what is said earlier, heart disease. And we all know when the heart is affected, one of two things happen. You could get a heart attack and also potentially get strokes. But we always got to ask, why is the sugar industries or anything that is using all forms of redefined sugars and high corn fructose sugars, why are they putting it all into these products? Because most every product now has some form of sugar. And one of the deadliest of all sugars, as people are not aware of, is high corn fructose sugar. What it does, it creates an addiction to the food. It fools your pancreas, where your pancreas supplies more insulin than it should be. And within time, you get insulin resistant because the sugar fools your bloodstream, your brain, and it makes your pancreas and make all other forms of your organs work harder. Very hard. Like you know how you turn your car and sometimes the engine don't run because something is clogging or doing something to the motor or whatever, for those who's a mechanics. And sometimes you got to check, is something malfunction here? Is I'm not putting the right products in it, the right parts, so something needs to be replaced. Doesn't need the right fuel. But these things you don't think about. But nonetheless, overconsumption of sugar leads to all those of the above. And through the research, it is evident that sugar does cause these problems. And reducing into a low sugar diet will not correct that problem. You're going to have to find ways to eventually cut the sugar off altogether. If you can. And I'm saying if you can because at the end of the day, you live in the West. Most of every food or byproducts you buy, mostly products that's not like, fruits and vegetables per se. Some of them are filled with chemicals. You buy things that have no nutritional value. Mostly things like candy, chips, So, like I said, if you can cut the sugar out your diet, that would be one step. Especially if you're having more health problems as you get older. Right now, anybody knows a loved one that has a weight problem. That's a result of overconsumption of carbs, and your body is not filtering and removing the waste. So, Well, moving on to the next article. The last and final article of this is Scientists Alert. Quantum teleportation was just achieved with 90% accuracy over a 44-kilometer distance. Scientists are edging closer to making a super secure, super fast quantum internet possible. They've now been able to teleport high-fidelity quantum information over a total distance of 44 kilometers in 27 miles. Both data fidelity and transfer distance are crucial when it comes to building a real working quantum internet and making progressive in either of these areas in cause for celebration. For those building our next generation communication network, in this case, the team achieves a greater than 90% fidelity data accuracy levels with a quantum information as well as sending it across extensive fiber optic networks similar to those that form the backbone of our existing internet. Woo. We're thrilled by these results, said physician Panagidis Spidowski or Spedzoros from the Fermilab Particle Physics and Accelerator Laboratory based at the California Institute of Technology, Caltech. I don't know if I went or graduated from Caltech. It's a good university, second to MIT. This is the key achievement on the way to building a technology that will redefine how we conduct global communication. Quantum internet technology uses qubits, unmeasured particles that remain suspended in a mix of possible states like spinning dice yet to settle. Qubits that are introduced to one another have their identities, intangibles, in ways that become obvious. Once they finally measure, imagine these intangible qubits as a part of dice. While each can land on land on any number, they are both guaranteed to add to 7 no matter how far apart they are. Delta in one location instantly reflects data in another. By clevering arrangements of entangling 3 qubits, it's possible to force the state of one particle to adopt the dice roll of another, via their mutual entangled partners. In quantum lands, this is as good as turning one particle into another. Teleporting is identity across a distance in a blink. The intangible or entanglement still needs to be established in the beginning through and then maintained as the qubits are sent to their eventual destination through optical fibers or satellites. The unstable, delicate nature of quantum information makes it tricky to beam entangled protons over long distance without interference. However, longer optical forces or fibers supply means more opportunity for noise to interfere with the entangled states. In total, the length of the fiber used to channel each qubit added to 44 kilometers, setting a new limit to how far we could send entangled qubits and still successfully use them to teleport quantum information. It never before been demonstrated to work over such a long distance with such accuracy, and it brings a city-sized quantum network closer to reality, even though there are still years of work ahead to make that possible. With the demonstration, we're beginning to lay the foundation for the construction of a Chicago-era metropolis quantum network, says Spetsoris. Quantum entanglement and data transportation is a complex science, and not even the experts fully understand how it might ultimately be used in a quantum network. Each prophet of concepts like this that we get put us a little closer to making such a network happen through. As promised, huge boost in speed and what it called computational power and quantum internet would be ultra secure. By hacking attempts would be as good as destroy. The lock being picked for now, at least scientists think quantum internet networks will act as specialists extensive to a classic internet rather than a complete replacement. Don't you like when technology so much improves that it makes life so much easier? I'm like a big tech dude, somewhat of a nerd. I say somewhat. To find the possibilities of technology we have now and the potential future of it is so exciting. Okay. As well as promising huge boosts in speed and computational power, a quantum internet would be ultra secure. Okay, I read that already. Researchers are tackling quantum internet problems from all different angles, which is why you will see a variety of distance mentioned in the studies. They're not all measuring the same technology, using the same equipment to test the same standard. What makes this study special is the accuracy of and the distance of the quantum entanglement teleportation, as well as the off-the-shelf equipment used. It should theoretically be relatively easy to scale up this technology using the hardware we're already got in place. We are very proud to have achieved this milestone on sustainable, high performance, and scalable quantum teleportation systems, said physician Merle Ciproli from Caltech. The results will be further improved with systems upgrading we are expecting to complete by second quarter of 2021. The research has been published by T.R.S. Quantums. And let's click onto that. Yeah, and there's like a whole label of other links. Y'all can find that during the Yeah, I'll put these in the description. Okay. So now that all articles has been read, yes, people that want to ask questions or call in or give their thoughts and opinions, call number 712-770-4160. The access code is, hold on. Where's my thing? The access code is 977-194#. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 977-194#. Tonight's stream, interesting articles. Now, throughout the many articles that I have read, some y'all might understand, some y'all might miss or don't catch. the one thing to take out of all this, these are just a few I found and I labeled as interesting articles. As y'all know, that I've been like from the first article when I noticed about the black fathers were the most involved fathers. I personally did not really want to concede to that notion, and the reason why because I have not really lived that experience, but I've known a few men that are fathers that are around their children's lives. Some that's in a marriage, some in a long-term relationship, or some that's co-parent. Nonetheless, I see it. Now, everybody else's surroundings and environment is so different in regards to how they view black fathers or black men raising their children, their sons and daughters. Nonetheless, a man only does what he's able to do with limited or the amount of resources he has. And some men make use of very little resource to raise a child. It doesn't take a lot to raise a child. It takes dedication, persistence, and a lot of effort. So, to find those percentage alone, I mean, it's really surprising because when it comes to us and them, I mean, biracial groups, we know what it is. And hold on. Can I say something? And we all know that, the CDC reports and all the documents give more clarity. And I'm looking at it now. There's more data onto this. I'm scanning it. Yeah. It's very high. And black men are really much involved. Very involved. And some stated go back 15 years ago of 2006 up to, 2013, I believe. And now we're looking at 15 years they started this data, and this number crunching is brief analysis and research up to 2013. And now we look at from 15 to 8 years apart of this article. I mean, nothing really has been changed in regards, how men raise their children. So, like I said, that one is very much an interesting article. I'm not going to deny that it's not factual, but it dispels the myth that most men are involved. And the men that are involved, pretty much the most, whether they're working a job or not, are black men. So we had to put some respect in the man's name, black man's name especially. And the funny thing, some of these dudes that have issues with black men, young men, that's not even 30 years old, have a lot of issues with a lot of black men. Some even listen to other women about what black men are. And it still goes into that myth. But I understand why that is, because majority of adults have not been around enough men in their life. I look at that 7 to 8% of, the household has somewhat to do with it, but it goes to a greater length that the men that don't have children and the men that are involved, they're not really the focus here because they only focus on the ones that are not involved overall. So they base reality by, people, black men especially, that are not involved and put that as the majority whole. And to be fair, honest, most men now that's making decent money or even good money are not going to be stepdads now. It was a nice job in the 20th century, but moving on to the 21st century, I tell you right now, ladies, you're going to be hard-fetched to find any man, not just black men, but any man in Germany, to play stepdaddy to your children. Or they want to call bastard children, but, that's another story. So, be wise. So like I say, be careful, be wise. And if you do get knocked up by any man, you better grind it out from 0 to 18, unfortunately. Now, for the other article. The thing with sugar. Like I said, sugar is a problem in the United States because sugar does lead to all types of illness, death, etc. And there's no way around it. You could have less sugar and hope that you could still get around the disease or any health ailments with this high consumption of high carbo diet. But the only solution is to really monitor what you're eating. And if you're going to mess with this refined sugar, it should be less than 5% of your diet. I would say 10 to 13, but that's too much. I would say 5%. So, if you're going to eat it, it should be one food item that has that percent. And after that, you don't go nowhere beyond that. I guarantee the less you cut back really substantial of the sugar and uptake real actual food like the vegetables, the fruits, maybe one little portion of starch and whatever, and some water. If you could drink a lot of water, drink enough water, you should be able to reverse the effects of certain bad ailments that you will develop or have developed through your history of, negligence with your diet. So that's the only answer I give you. And the final and last one, quantum teleportation. This is the wave of the future. High-speed internet, supercomputers. We all hear stories, saw movies about this. We think it was a pipe dream, but this is reality. This thing that exists. And the wave now, because we're now moving into 5G. 5G is going to be moving for a much more wider accelerating bandwidth, much faster computers. And with faster computers and internet speed, you're going to have more faster technology that will introduce automated vehicles, much efficient, more self-sufficient things that will use AI, like robots. The future's going to look like the Terminator. It's going to look like those movies that everybody has been watching over the 80s. You're seeing it firsthand now in the first 20 years of the 21st century. So the future does look good from my eyes. But, let me open the line. First caller, open up. Who's that?
Hey, what's going on, Gary?
Hey, what's good? Let me adjust my mic, my headphone. What's good? What's on your mind, Jay?
Yeah, so I guess catching on the last thing that you said about technology, yeah, they're definitely moving fast. In the next 10 years, 10 years from now, we're gonna have the first official launch to Mars.
That's what they're projecting?
Yeah, this is already on record. NASA was supposed to do this in 2024, but because of not the COVID, but the funding that stopped from NASA for the past couple of years, before it went corporate with SpaceX and this guy Elon Musk, it kind of pushed them back. Obviously the funding helped them to do experiments and all type of stuff to kind of get ready for that trip. So because of that, it slowed them down. But they're projecting, I believe it's 32. 2032 is going to be up there. You're talking about in the next 4 years they're going to the moon, first woman on the moon ever. And they just launched a couple of satellites in the last couple of weeks that are much more stronger, powerful, efficient, sufficient. Now, as we, like you said, that they're coming up with all these different things with the computer where it's moving faster because they're trying to, get the computer to work light speed. And one of the reasons they want to do that is because a lot of the businesses have went online, right? So, there's one of the main things that's online that's probably time consuming or they want to beat the clock is stocks. You know, when they're dealing with stocks and the numbers going up and down, and when you're going to try to buy shares, that has to work fast. You can't have a computer loading up like the way it used to do on a DSL.
Yeah. I see. That makes sense.
But then you got other people that don't embrace the new technology. They saying, well, 5G it has corona in it. You know, how do you deal with people? Are they going to stay behind or what? Or what's going to happen when 4G turns to 5G and it's standard to be on 5G?
My thing is this, Jay. In regards to 5G and linked to coronavirus, right? They're already preparing people. If let's say that is factual, that's true, which I either I'm agree or don't agree with that, right? That they are moving with these so-called chemical vaccines that have nanotechnology and stuff. They're genetically augmenting you for technology. You know, you see movies of this. You get me? You see even talks about they trying to help people that are paralyzed, completely paralyzed, put chips, like microchips in their brains. You get me? So they're trying to embed human bodies with machinery, with technology. You're aware of this, right?
Yeah, there's people walking around with robotic arms right now.
I mean, actually, you see one person with a stroke got a robotic whole arm now attached to him. Now his arm is still there, but they put these things around his shoulder and his arm so he's able to have some mobility. You get me?
Exoskeleton.
Yeah. So, and the exoskeleton was developed from Asia like 2-3 years ago. So the future's here already, bro. The question is how fast black people are going to be up on board with this and fall in line with this, or catch up, or not. I'm not say catch up, but be in front line with this.
They could create.
Yeah.
Where's our scientists at?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a lot of inventors now too. I think that with what's going on with technology has opened up the door. You know, and people having. That's why it's important to have good internet access. You know, because you're gonna find some geniuses in different parts of the country. They ain't all gonna be in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
They ain't all gonna be in New York City. There's gonna be people in other parts of the country that's smart.
And think about it, you're in New York. You're in the hub of everything. You get me? Where all this is at. You get me?
Right.
So you're in a good spot, bro. To be fair and honest, you're witnessing the use of technology at its finest. You know, you see a city like New York gonna be a smart city. You know. I mean, real talk. You know. So my thing is this.
The Consumer Electronics Show is about to be online this year.
Yeah,
and that's to get some information on what's going to be coming out in the next year or two.
And I'm gonna say this personally. I remember the other dude did a stream on here yesterday about New Order, all this gizmos, and this thing about necroxy, all this stuff. I look at, and I'll say this personally, and he probably won't hear this, that times are changing, and either you're with the times or not. And if you're a certain age, man or woman, if you're over 50 years old, you better get in line with the technology. Hell, Tyrone, of all people, he messes around with drones and stuff, and he knows how to build and fix them, and he's up to the times. But when you hear other men, black men particularly, bro, talk this about, the fears and scares of control and all that stuff, I always ask most black men, but what are you in control? Because you're not in the front line of things. So talking about control is irrelevant if you're not the pioneers of this new wave. You get me?
that's a good point.
So I don't talk about it, but I tell black people, especially black men, are you going to be in this industrial age or this we call technical age or what? I mean, I'm trying to get some brothers right now on future shows talk about cryptocurrency because I'm at a point now that there's no way any man at this point, wherever how much money you have, you need to throw some buckets into this. You get me? Just
tell me
last
how many
year
people
alone,
are using a black
just
and
last
white
year alone,
TV?
Jay. Just last year alone. I mean, just last year alone, Jay. The digital currency from the Bitcoin and all the other coins that went below 20K has jumped an extra 20K within the last few months of 2020, and I expect it to jump higher now because we're using more technology. So this so-called, and mind you, digital currency is spectral. It can be risky, very risky than stocks, but nothing that you invest comes with no risk. Let's be clear here. I want people to hear me real clear. You're going to get ups and downs with cryptocurrency, all forms, but that'll excuse you to not even participate. I'll say personally, I put my bucket in investing in some of this. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And to hope it gets some return. The only thing I tell most brothers and sisters that you should have an understanding of technology now. Feel comfortable, love it, respect it. Try not to shy away or be scared of it. It will not serve you in your survival because the more they start remove manual labor from humans and move into AI and robotics, the further you're going to be behind in the society. And one of the few things, and I'll tell you our secret. When they say they want to, let's say, have less people in the world, they do this to prepare people to be dependent on AI technology. Because technology is going to be the manual labor than humans. You get me? Machines going to do things easier for us. And to have almost 8 billion people on Earth will not sustain this technology bubble overall. So what most people that are in higher positions, what they do, what they've always been doing is trying to cut back the fat, if you get what I mean.
Well,
now, how they going to do this? There are ways they're going to go about it. I want people to imagine how they're going to go through this. But nonetheless, I'm speaking out my mouth to tell y'all this, that it's better to be up on the times and utilize it for your own self-preservation and stop running away from it. You get me?
Well, look, I just asked most people, right? It took me a while in my life to get a bank account, because when I was younger, though, I was skeptical, right? Young and less informative, right?
Yeah.
Or less information. But I asked everybody, so how many of y'all don't have a bank account? How many of you are saving thousands of dollars in your house?
Very little.
There's some
people
that
are
do.
just getting by.
Some people got money in the bank and they got money in their house, stashed up,
Okay.
right? But I'm saying those that are not using a system. How many people don't have a credit card? If you got a bank account, you have a bank card. You had to give your information to the bank. The bank is not the government, but the bank is works with the government so they could be able to conduct their business. So they work real close with the government, right? But we give our information to them. I mean, your phone bill, your electricity. If you pay electricity, then you have to give your information. When you go buy a house or you're renting, a lease, you got to put your information there. So look, that's just I'm just referring to how your information ends up in a electronic system. Period. Like it's in a database, right? So that's guaranteed. There's no escaping that. if you want to say. Now, how many people are using black and white TVs right now? Huh? Like, there's not really a lot of people that still have a black and white TV in their house, and they're watching TV through this black and white TV. I'm pretty sure they upgraded. So I'm just saying that that's another thing. Another thing is how many people refuse to have a cell phone and are still using just a house phone. They say, oh, well, you know what, if I got to make a phone call in the street, I'm going to a pay phone. Well, there's not really that many pay phones out there. But you can use somebody else's phone or landline, but I'm just saying that there's not many people that say, oh, well, I'm not going to have a cell phone because of technology. I'm going to stay only with a rotary phone. Maybe there's a handful of people. I'm not saying that there's nobody out there, but it's not really a lot of people like that. You know, then if we talk about moving forward with the cell phone, how many people bought a phone and then they end up getting a smartphone? All right? Most people have smartphones. There's some people that still got flip phones, yes. But again, a small percentage versus those that have a smartphone. And then when you sign up again, when you going to put up the phone, you got to give some type of ID that they got to put in a database so you could get the phone on and shit. So, I mean, you got technology is something that humans invent. The human being invents that. So, I mean, some people get upset. It's like, oh, well, they're doing this. Well, there's a human being inventing it. I mean, I thought sometimes innovation is good and bad, or everything has a positive and negative, but for the most part, it's usually for some good. You know, you could look at it, too, like, oh, well, this is bad. Well, some people look at it as good, or most people, you know. Like they say, well, the robots is going to take over jobs and all that. It does have it's going to have a negative effect, but then on the other hand, they say, well, what people are going to do? Well, don't we complain that people are working too much? Right? People are busting their ass working to get money. So what are we going to do? We're going to have more time on our hands to do what? To be more productive in other ways. You might be able to go on vacation, enjoy your life a little bit better, or you find yourself a hobby that you can do, you know, that keeps you busy and happy, and then also something productive. If you already getting a check and you good to go and you just have time on your hands, find something that you like to do. Find some activities. You know, you want to be working all the time? You know? I mean, there's people that got to work because they got to work. I get it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you had the chance, wouldn't you want more time on your hands where you could do stuff? And because there's so much stuff that we don't get to do because we always working. You know, look at the way the day is laid out for us. Just think about it, right? Most people get up at 5, 6 between, let's just say, some people get up at 4 in the morning, some people get at 3, but let's just start from 4 or 5 in the morning, right? People got to get up. They start their day by washing their mouth, showering.
Jay, pause for 1 second. Let me open one line before you continue. Hello? I'll open your line.
Yeah, what's up?
I can't hear you. Speak up.
Hold on.
Carl, hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, who's this?
Okay, this is Amiri.
Amiri Brown?
Yeah, Amiri. What's up, man?
Oh, what's up, Amiri? All right. Let Jay finish before I let you speak.
All right, I'm going to mute my line.
Okay.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
So look, universally, I'll make it short. Look, universally, our days laid out. Again, you wake up usually 4 or 5. Around that time, people are going to they showering, breakfast, getting ready, got to take their kids to school, get them ready or whatever they got to do, make breakfast. But my point is that, you know, within an hour or two of that time you getting up, you're probably going to end up at work. Then you get out of work, you have maybe an hour of commute. I don't know, 1 hour, usually half an hour. Sometimes people have 2. And then they coming back home. By the time you come home after 5, 6 o'clock, the day is over. You only have a little time to go make dinner, you know, watch a little TV if that, read a newspaper, you know, talk with your family, what happened to the day or whatever, and then you got to get ready to go to bed for the next day. So I'm just saying that our life is working and sleeping and commuting. Just calculate. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time commuting every day, an hour, a day, 2 hours, going and coming, all right? And then also when they get home, they got to just take care of chores and things that they got to do as far as, you know, for their family, and they only have a little bit of time to have leisure time, if you want to say, and then go to sleep, get up, and do it all over again. So I'm just saying, we dedicate our time to working, and with the future, it's going to be more time on our hands. It's just what we do with the time, and hopefully when they do push for that universal money, that is enough to live and people can still make money on the side. I'll leave it there.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Jay. Mary, the Great Liberator, are you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on, man? What's the topic tonight?
I'm good. No, it's interesting articles. I'm not sure what time you tuned into the stream. I read 3 articles. One dealing with quantum teleportation, sugar, and the last one, well, the first one was dealing with black men are the best fathers. A little article dealing with some little data that they've discovered back in 2015.
Well, but you see that would have to. Well, now you have to pick your poison, and this is the thing, because you constantly hear this cognitive dissonance that comes from black men, right? And because you can't blame the ills of the community on single mothers and then turn around and say you're the best father. So you can't have it both ways. You got to pick and choose. Either you not being in the home is the problem, or you not being home is irrelevant because you're the best father. Which one is it? See, this is the type of circular logic that's applied, because the fact of the matter is you have too many individuals talking about things that's above their pay grade, and they don't have the breadth of knowledge from a sociological perspective to speak on. And this is and so this is what happens. And so, like I said, accuracy of information doesn't matter when you have no agenda on implementing it anyway. You see, everyone is entitled to their opinion. However, all opinions aren't created equal. Some opinions are more valid than others because some opinions are based on accurate information and some aren't. Some are based on ignorance. You see, and so that's the thing. I understand that black men have been pretty much present in the lives of their children. So you can't make the argument then that the problem is single motherhood and single mothers destroying these children. You can't have it both ways. Like, see, you can't say that. You can't make the Moynihan argument and then turn around and say black men are the most, or there's more black men in college than in prison. Well, then you just debunked the Moynihan report. You just debunked the Moynihan report, brother. You did that. You see what I'm saying? But you see, the reason why is because what takes place in the political discourse, in the political arena, is propaganda. You see, so you propagandize low-class, ghettoized blacks as inherently pathological. And so what that does is it justifies your mistreatment and discrimination against them. I was having this discussion with ABC on his show last night. You have to look at the overall macroscopic condition of black society, and how we're still very much under Jim Crow and racism and discrimination today, as we were in the 1920s and 1930s, and all the way up to the civil rights movement. But just as segregated residentially as we were then. And that's the whole purpose. You. As a matter of fact, I was reading earlier how residential segregation plays a large part in the quality of food supply you have access to. And the reason why I knew this was the case, like that's why I went and researched it, because I just observe it in real time, everyday life. Like if you go to a high-end area, this area will be predominantly white. It may be a mixed area, but it'll be relatively affluent. So class does play some it does play a part in this, right? And you'll notice the types of stores that you'll see. You'll see a Sprouts. You'll see a Whole Food Market. You'll see a Publix. Publix is closer to the higher end. In those places, the thing about those places is you're getting organic food, high-end food. But then if you go to Bankhead, or you go to the projects, or you go in one of these ghetto enclaves, you're going to find a Food Depot, you're going to find a Kroger, you're going to find a Wayfield. You know what I'm saying? And the food and the things there are pretty much more affordable. So we have to look at the way the overall society is stratified, even outside of race, just from the financial component and how it filters itself through race. But residential segregation plays a large part in why we have the high obesity rates that we have. But then you'll have brothers making observations about the obesity rate of black women and black children, but not taking that into account. But the reason why you don't want to take that into account is because you know that is a hard lift to deal with it. You see, you can't talk about, and this is the problem that I have. You have individuals who want to talk about that. Everybody claims, well, I'm doing this for the community. I want strong black families. It's a collective thing. But then when you talk about what the issue is collectively, in the macroscopic, what it comes down to, the bottom line, where the rubber meets the road from a macroscopic perspective, is that you still exist in a white ethno-state that has mechanisms in place to usher you in the outcomes that you get. For the most part, this is what it is. See, that is the macroscopic reality. This is what all of the empiricism says. This is what the social scientists who look at these things say. This is what the critical race theorists posit. But you'll ignore that, and then you want to make it an individualized thing because you know what it requires to actually deal with it on that level. See, so you want to make it about black women, but you're not talking. But the reason why they have higher rates than white women, some of it is behavioral, but white women have better access to food than your women. Why? We know why. Because your black ass don't run nothing. You don't control any waterways. You don't control any roadways. You don't run any distribution hub. What do you run? So just like on the goddamn plantation, we're giving the slop. We're giving the slop. Why you want to sit here and do all this goddamn talking? How long do I have to be subjected to hearing individuals who profess themselves to be men majoring in the minor and minoring in the major and really think they're doing and saying something? But it acts as if when you're bringing this up, talking about it from a macroscopic perspective, that you're somehow off the mark, or you're wrong, or this, that, and the third, and the other. And this is why I even said a while back, Chaos, that kings are loyal to their people, and queens are loyal to their king. Now, what do I mean by that? What does that mean? Why did I use that language? And the reason why I use that language is because in this age right now, we're talking about value. Who's a high-value man? Who's high-value this? Right? We understand value is very much relative and is based on impact. How impactful are you to the people you come into contact with, the people you're connected with, both on an interpersonal level and on a larger societal level, even on a larger racial demographic level? How impactful are you? So there's nothing higher than a king. There's nothing higher than a queen for a woman. So kings are loyal to their people and queens are loyal to their king. You can't tell me what your value is if you're not concerned about the overall health and vitality of black people. I don't want to hear about your fucking value based on nigger trinkets or because you think you make 6 figures. How impactful are you to your people? Kings are loyal to their people. Period. Yes. And there's nothing higher than a king. There's like from the female's perspective, it's nothing like getting with a king. From the female perspective, the queens are loyal to their king. Am I talking about the man? No, I'm talking about their sons. I'm talking about their sons. When you look at somebody like Alexander the Greek, it wasn't Alexander the Greek's father that rose him up to prominence and power. It was his mother. It was his mother. See? And that's why mothers are supposed to instill certain patriarchal principles into their son. Patriarchy is a female imperative. It's a female imperative. It's the way we evolve naturally. It's the way we develop naturally. You see the same progression with technology in machinery. This is what you see. Well, what's displacing the necessity of men and women's lives that ain't feminism and all this other stuff they're talking about? It's technology. That's what it is. Because now the machines do what you can't. The machines do more than you can do. The machines are more efficient, stronger. So, for example, when you had horse and buggy, and you might need a man to, hook that bad boy up and with the horse. Now a sister can get a car. Now a woman can get a car. She don't need you. This is the way we evolve. That's what patriarchy is from the female perspective. So that comes from the mother, because the man is the avatar for the woman. He does what she can't do. I watched the movie, and it stars Denzel Washington's son, and it's called Tenet. That's the name of the movie, Tenet. It's like a time. It's a trippy movie, right? But there's one part in the movie where he's going to look for this big time arms dealer in India. So he breaks into their abode or whatever, and so he sees the husband and the wife. So he goes to the husband and puts the gun to his head and start start questioning him, interrogating him, because he's thinking he's the arm dealer, but he wasn't the arm dealer. The arm dealer was his wife. And so then when she revealed it, and he said, why you got this charade going on where you got everybody thinking that the arms dealer is a man? And you know what she said? She said, a masculine front has its benefits in a world dominated by men. But she was the true power behind them. It's the way it's always been. That is the way it's always been, man. That's why culturally and within American culture, they would say behind every successful man is a woman. Every successful man is a woman. What you have is this pissing match with black men and black women where they want to try and negate the necessity of the other's role. They want to try and negate that. See, you have individuals speaking authoritatively on these issues when they don't have the knowledge base, the skill set, the foresight, the spiritual connectedness, nor the empathy or compassion to do so. And then wonder why you just end up with what you started with. You see, and so, like, for me, it's frustrating. You see this all the time. Like, okay, if you're not concerned with the overall health and vitality of black people as a nation, as a group, as a people, why are you here? I asked complex design that. Okay, so if you're an individual and that's all this other stuff you're talking about, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
See, why are you here? Why are you here discussing these issues? And what happens is we push a lot of notions and myths that only serve to drive a wedge between black men and black women. We pick up these identities and these mantras and these banners, and we operate as agents and proxies of white institutional narratives and ideals. Even when you're talking about the six-figure thing, I've been making six figures 8 years now, right? So if I did the math, I probably would have made $1 million or close to it, right? But that don't mean I got $1 million. That don't mean I'm living high off the hog. I was doing some research, and there's an economist from the 1920s named Irving Fisher, and he has a couple of books on economics. But one of the books I found interesting was The Money Illusion. And what the book, what it's talking about is it's talking about the nominal value of currency as opposed to its real world value. So you have $1, and on the fiat currency on the note it says $1, but what can that dollar actually pay for? That is the real value. So see, there's this illusion that we have by looking at, how many, whatever amount is on the fiat currency note. But in fact, you can only get about 60 to 70 cents out of $1. So $1 ain't $1. You see this even when they went from using copper for what they were making pennies out of. They went to some type of alloy, right, with zinc and something else. Because when they were using copper, the copper was worth more than 1 cent. You know what I'm saying? So they said, okay, you got to use a cheaper alloy, cheaper type of metal to make this. See, so we have these delusions of grandeur, man. Black men have yet to reach income parity with white men doing the same type of work, the same productivity, but still getting paid less. No conversations from any of these so-called niggas on YouTube, man. So you're not concerned about these issues for your son and for your children. I know it keeps me up. I think about it. No campaign on that. No campaign on that whatsoever. As if that isn't a pertinent issue. I posted something on Facebook from W.E.B. Du Bois that was written in the early 20th century, in the early 1900s. It was a study of the Negro American family. Totally debunks anything that you hear out here today, because he's writing this in a time that was before feminism, it was before welfare, it was before all this stuff that they talk about. But he was outlining the problems then. And the problem was economics. The problem was economics. No conversations on the long-term unemployment and joblessness of black people, but more specifically black men. No conversations on that. On what are some of the things that can be done to mitigate against that being the reality. You go into many of these urban areas where we are, and the unemployment rate is double digit. The joblessness rate is double digit. Ever since the implementing of the Bacon-Davis Act in 1935, black men have been the most unemployed. Prior to that, they would be able to undercut the white worker. But when you institute a minimum wage, you stop that. You stop their ability to do that. The only one who can come in and undercut them is an illegal immigrant. This is why you see Mexicans have taken over construction, because they were able to do the work cheaper because they're getting paid under the table. And then when they get paid under the table, they're doing the work cheaper. They can then take that money and funnel it back to Mexico, where a dollar is worth what? 2 or 3 pesos or whatever they have over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have sisters who align themselves with the liberal machine that's looking to incentivize illegal immigration, that's helping to keep your men unemployed. While you complain about you can't find a man.
Mm.
So see how it works?
Yeah.
And all we get from these so-called thought leaders, and that's why I thought it was particularly apt for the sister Kristen Mullen, who was on with Dr. Darity when we was doing the interview on your channel, to mention the thought leaders. Who are the thought leaders that we follow? These shade tree buffoons who had this Malcolm X convict nigga epiphany now, and now they want to be leaders and spearhead movements and running their mouths and all this other stuff, but don't have the knowledge base, man, to deal with the nuances and the intricacies. We hear this pro-black zeitgeist that integration was the worst thing that happened. We was better segregated. You're still segregated. You weren't integrated. That's the problem. You're just as segregated now as you were then. That's what I've been explaining to them. Integration and segregation is no different. It's the same shit. You're under the same goddamn thing. But just because you can go in a white establishment and spend your dollar, you think you're integrated. No, we're talking about spacity. How do you control the space? How does white socio-space encroach on black life? The spatiality of the country, how we are situated, how we are outlined. You look at the hyper-segregation, not just segregation, because every community has some level of segregation, can be healthy. But we're hyper-segregated. Hyper-segregated. So you centralize, collectivize, and control us through the space. So if you have the best paying jobs are in areas close to the suburbs, further away from the city, and you restrict these people to living in the city, the chances of them being able to get a job, even under the Equal Opportunity Employment Act, is much less likely because they stay far away.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you do it. De facto Jim Crow Esquire. You see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because we can put on the brands of European colonialists and imperialists and make ourselves feel good about ourselves because we have nigger trinkers and we have this and that, we think we're doing something while we don't produce anything, while we don't control anything, while we don't create anything, we don't own anything. We'll sit outside a shoe store for hours for the new Jordans. The retros coming out, man.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have a pot to piss in on, window to throw it out of. But we want to have circular, meaningless conversations about mating and dating and all this other irrelevant crap. People who dissent from what the order of the day is, and the order of the day is entertainment. But those who dissent from that, who don't follow that trend or that trek, these are the ones we reject.
Mm-hmm.
We view them as boring. They're trolling. They're trying to rile us up, instigate. Because what it is you enjoy the comfortability that your ignorance and your apathy provides. Because knowledge carries with it a responsibility. Because when you know better, you do better. Who are the leaders that we deserve? who are the leaders that we deserve? And if you're getting on the airways, propagating nonsense for the purposes of having an audience and market share and for money, then you are a slave. You're no different than the sisters you talk about who prostitute for $40. Because you prostitute yourself for 40 likes, nigga, for 40 views. What's the difference? Does leadership carry with it a moral weight and responsibility? To know what you're talking about, and if you don't know what you're talking about, being honest enough to acknowledge you don't know what you're talking about. So here it is, as we are on the precipice of going into a new age of technology, of innovation, of human development. Black society in America is on a one-way trip to suicide, race suicide. This is what you're advocating for, because the capitalist class have economically incentivized self-depopulation. You don't have to do it through force. The long-term maintenance of power, long-term maintenance of power over subjugated groups is accomplished through seduction, not force. So they don't have to use force to control you. They don't have to use the police to control you. They control you through ideas that they get you to believe in, and ideas that see them maintaining their power grip on the society. This is what they do. So we will believe that there's a such thing as a child being expensive. We will believe that, when the fact of the matter is that the earth gives what it gives for free. It gives what it gives for free. In agrarian societies, children are more valuable than in industrialized technological societies, because children are part of the labor force. This is what they could work on the farm. They would have their chores. That's where summertime came from. How you get summertime in America, because during harvest season the children would be out from school. So they get you to buy into it, and then they follow it up with a campaign of Planned Parenthood and abortions and hysterectomies for sisters. But in their communities, it's not abortion clinics; it's fertility clinics. And so you don these ideas and then go off and act as a social contagion, spreading dumb shit, thinking you being woke and you deep and you know something spreading it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So can you operate in a nuance? And they can't. They don't have the knowledge base to do that. They ain't reading nothing. It's just niggas watching other niggas on YouTube and taking sound talking points that they think sounds good. Won't even vet it. Like even when we were talking to Dr. Darity and Dr. Kirsten Mullen, and they were talking about reparations, they mentioned how John Tahizit, who was intimately involved in the Japanese reparation project, stated that the number one concern for African Americans, or the number one requisite to get reparations is group cohesion around that idea. But here it is with us. You have 30% of African Americans don't believe we deserve reparations.
Yeah,
I would challenge you to find any other group. Go ahead.
30% out of 70, and we
30% out of 100.
I told Dr. Derry, out of 30%, how many of that is ADOS? and he really give me an answer. But go on, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the thing. But it doesn't even matter at that point. You know, the whole point, the whole bottom line is how many people you think, what you think was the percentage of Jews against reparations for the Holocaust? You know what I'm saying? You think it was double digit? No. No, man. Probably was zero. Yeah, who knows? Probably it was negligible at best, but not over a quarter. This is what you're dealing with. This is, like, because Ramil ain't ADOS. This is a nigga, homegrown, dumb and simple as can be. But because he can make a little money here and there, think you Donald Trump, so you think you better. So you want to feel better. You want to feel better and superior to other niggas.
Hey Gary, I'm on the line. What's up?
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. I'm aware of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who that is? All Facts?
What's up, man? He's mad that I cut you off. Tell him, man, I ain't cut you off. He gonna say I'm disturbing the show. You already, I'm the outcast and shit. You know.
Yeah.
What's up?
What's up, man?
I just want to step in, man, because I gotta go to bed, man. Work come early in the morning, but I called in, man. You hitting on some things I just want to agree with you about. Not debating tonight, Amari. Not debating with you.
Okay.
Man, I know you ready to knock somebody out, but man, come on, I'm not here to swing on you, so don't swing on me.
Yeah, okay.
But man, the job market on the black African American male, boy, we all have to wake up.
Right.
I was thinking, I told him last night, just think about it. If it wasn't for government agencies, local government, state government, federal government, think about it. For the most part, black people, we would be in trouble. Think about it now. Hold up. Now, when you slide over to the private institutions, before we even talk about race and gender and your zip code, you got clicks on the job. Then you have the private industries can fire you for any reason they want. I mean, they don't have to keep you there. So your local governments, your state governments, and the federal government is making, I'm not going to be statistically, but I'll say it makes a lot of the black middle class, a lot of cones. If it wasn't for the government, and a lot of these people who talk about forget government, somehow may work for the government. I don't know. But if it wasn't for the government services helping out black, we would be in trouble. Private industries wouldn't deal with it. That's why we got to put pressure on the private industries. Well, what do you guys say about that, real quick? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Most black people get their jobs from from the government. They get it's government jobs. They're like not from the private sector. Like that was one of the reasons why you had affirmative action. Affirmative action was actually an executive order before it was part of the Civil Rights Bill. It was an executive order signed by John F. Kennedy, and that's what it was specifically dealing with. It was specifically dealing with governmental jobs, like government jobs at that time. Like we've always gotten the majority of our jobs from the government, man. So you're right. Like we're in the exact same position.
Right, but now see, the forefront is you're going to have to take an initiative to make these, watch this, businesses hire blacks. And people are going to say, well, you don't want to start working for white people. You want to start your own businesses. Stop right there. That's another thing in our communities that's been hindering black males. Stop. First of all, you got government and you got private businesses. They the only ways you're making money unless you're on a block selling drugs. So you got the government, private business. So we already talked about the government, how they helping blacks out. Private industries, let's just talk about technology. They outdo government in technology. When a government makes a product, a private industry will make the product better than the government because, believe it or not, the private industry has a lot more money to spend on materials and products. They freelancers. They can work with, I'm saying they can just spend their money. And plus, sometimes they may not have no restrictions in development, right? So we must work with those predominantly white companies that's already got a foundation through the years and years of slavery, and we're not going to go through that, but they have that foundation. Get them to employ us for a certain amount of years, and then we can branch out and educate our people. Because the quickest thing to start a business for a poor black man is to get quality income for about 5-10 years, save your money up, and starting your own. And while you're working for that white man's businesses, you're learning skills, you're dealing with his instruments, you're dealing with your craft, and you can help them branch out. So private industries need to be, pressure needs to be put on them to hire blacks. It needs to be an initiative. And I'm almost done, Amari. I'm going to get your opinion on this. Also, when you make an initiative or give companies tax breaks to hire black people, when you know, or the black community know, that businesses are trying to hire us, we know what to educate our people in. We already know. Oh, Facebook is going to hire him. Boeing, NASA, they're going to hire 15% of the employees are going to be. You already know what you need to educate the children in. Then the states can say, okay, we need to build laboratories in this school here. We need materials here, because the problem over the years, they've been passing these bills, Amari, and they haven't been implementing them correctly. So that's just what I think. I definitely agree with you on that. And I think that's black women, you got a big power in the Democratic Party. I guess they say you're the strongest faction. I say they think they, I don't know, dictate the politics in America. But if they don't start focusing on how the black male is suffering this country economically and employment-wise, they may be a little bit responsible for it, Amari, because you can't say that you dictate the politics and you get the Democrats in, but then when your brothers and sisters and cousins can't get a job, well, you may be responsible for that. What you think about that?
No, I mean, you're right. Like, they gotta still have to see that they have a vested interest in using some of that that perceived political clout and redirecting it into their men. And I'm talking about mainly their sons. That's why I said kings are loyal to their people and queens are loyal to their king. You see, this whole thing where many sisters are taught to filter their existence through womanhood and all this old other dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Not to take away from issues that sisters might face, but you have this thing now where there's this camaraderie amongst women, and this is something that's even translated and transferred from mother to daughter. You see, but the number one influence in a boy's life is not his father, it's his mother. Now, if you don't believe that, I have some of the information on it. See, this whole thing about, you know, fathers this and fathers that, but men have traditionally not been in the home, man. You know what I'm saying? Like if you even like, it wasn't, farming is when we became stationary, but if you look at like when men would have to go hunt, or when you look at when men would have to go fish, that shit, what they like they wasn't going to the store and coming right back. The men would be gone for an extended period of time. It wasn't until the male became the male child became strong enough to engage in a lot of stuff because it was dangerous. Like you go on some of them hunts, a hunting excursion might last weeks, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta eat, you gotta get food. Or if they go fishing, they ain't going and coming right back. They didn't have motorboats, so they had to sail. You see, so what I'm saying is those patriarchal things that we talk about, that we think, see, machoism and chauvinism is not patriarchy. That shit is not patriarchy. That shit where men are superior to women and think you're being patriarchal, that's stupid. Patriarchy benefits women. It gets men to do the things for women that women can't do for themselves. That's what patriarchy does. This is why even under patriarchy, you had polygyny, where a man of means who did have cattle and land and shit like that, he would take on multiple wives. That's why. So under patriarchy, men do the things for women that women can't do for themselves because of sexual dimorphism. See, so those instincts and those things don't come from the father. It come from the mother.
Well, yeah. Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But we can conflate and we confuse it. Being machoism is not masculinity, and chauvinism is not patriarchy. You being a chauvinist and thinking women ain't shit and they just there to make babies, that's some shit you get from that goddamn European devil. That's where you get that dumb shit from. The majority of the planet that was melanated didn't think like that. Even though the men was in the dominant position and out in front, they did not view it like that. And that was part of the calculus that Europeans used to justify their colonization and imperial rule over these melanated groups of people. The closer a group is to the equator, the more the division of labor is skewed towards what women do. And what women do is gather. They don't hunt. Women don't hunt. They gather. And if you want to know the truth, women are better stewards over resources than men. Now, that's empiricism. That's empirical. And when I say resources, I ain't talking about fiat currencies and banking systems that's predicated on slavery and robbery. I'm talking about natural resources. I'm talking about food supplies and things of that nature. States, women are typically better stewards over resources than men. Even now, women. Do you know that women produce most of the world's food? Women produce most of the world's food. That's what I was trying to explain to like a lot of these dudes in the manosphere thinking go read, man. It's the information. See, it's nothing in this world that you want to know that you can't know if you want to.
You know, Amiri, it's interesting you mentioned the food sources. I know of a man. You're familiar with Mr. Miller, T.R.S. Miller, Amiri?
That name sounds familiar.
So, yeah, I had him on multiple times for the last 3, maybe 4 years now. I probably will have him on again maybe this year. We'll see how things go. And he is a farmer by profession, trade, biomedical farmer. And he says it best that women cultivate the food. Now, in America, it's a little different, but outside America, majority of women, especially sisters, do cultivate food. You know, it's just, when you come here, they have a Western mindset, so they lost some of that science, and some of some, not all. So a good portion, they don't do that much. Yeah, because of how the society is structured now.
Yeah, like you go to a store and you can get GMO shit. You know what I mean? But women are better stewards at that than men. That's what I was trying to say. Everything that we do in civilization is for food and food production and food maintenance. That's if you notice, like watch dogs. You know why dogs are always walking around sniffing? What you think they're doing? They're looking for food, and it's not even because they're hungry. It's instinct. Everything that we do in this habitat, and by habitat I'm talking about the planet, is for food and food production and water. Everything and then when you break it down and you start talking about imperialism, colonialism, I understand that that's going to be a necessary evil. Like you see it with animals. Like if you watch one of those nature programs in the African Serengeti and an old watering hole dry up, what the animals do? They migrate. And if those animals, like say a pride of lions, got to migrate from where they at because the water supply ran up, that means their food supply ran up because the animals not going to be there because ain't no water. So then they're going to go look for water first. So then, like say they come to a new watering hole and it's already a pride of lions there, what you think is going to happen? You think they're going to be one big family? No, they're going to fight. They're going to fight because now it's going to be a mad dash over that territory. This is what's happening on an interplanetary level. This is what's happening on the planet. Why the Europeans had to leave Europe and go on their conquest because they needed the resources. You see, they needed the resources, man.
Well, I'm about to go, but let me say something to Mike. I understand you talking about, but we talking about the Black African American community. Right. We're talking about there's a lot of black women out here working. There's more matter of fact, there's more women working more than men. You know how many people that were arrested the other day for, trying to take over the government who were stay-at-home dads and their wives were doctors and lawyers and big money, and they were staying at home with idle time getting in trouble just like black males do with idle time. They ain't working, they ain't doing nothing. So I'm just saying, but let's see, in the black African American community, more women are working than men. And I'm just saying, in my dating field now, it's totally different, Amari. I understand where you're coming from. But the dynamics is different because I'm dealing with a woman who's already 9 times out of 10, 9.95 out of 9.5% out of 10. She got her own stuff. She don't need me for money. She got her own stuff. So it ain't about me come and spend all the money to see I'm the boss. Because she wants me, she's gonna have to want me more than okay, he got this, he got that, okay, but she already got stuff. She's gonna need me more for that. It's not nothing that I can supply a home for her. She already has a home. They have an attitude that I don't need him. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different than a 24, 25-year-old couple starting off. They don't have nothing and they start a family. So the dynamics is different out of here just on the economic part. Money plays a lot of important in relationships. So I'm just saying, men out there, I'm just saying you got to get used to women who have money. If she has money and she likes you for you. But, man, if you're going in there thinking that, I don't know, you're going to dictate and take over her stuff, they don't like that. They get scared and wimped out. But you're going to have to handle a women who got money, and it's different. Some men are uncomfortable with that because they feel less of a man. Amari, because they on that traditional stuff. I don't know, but it's tough out here. So, but that's all I gotta say. But it basically it comes down to that money and men's unemployment. Black women, I don't know, men. If you don't got no job, she ruling you. You know how many men out here would be homeless if there was no Section 8? Come on, Amari, you know that stuff. It's tough out here for a brother. So we need a Band-Aid, man. We've definitely been put aside. But that's all I got to say. I'm going to listen to you guys before I go to bed. And I'll hear your response, my brother. And take it easy. And I'll get you on Facebook, too. And thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. We have approached the hour marks. Any closing, Amiri? I'm probably
I think I pretty much said what I needed to say. Yeah, it was good. I think I said what I needed to say.
Okay, excellent. Also, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's stream. You know, this was article reviews, and maybe I might do more of this down the line. We shall see. But other than that, thank y'all for listening. Until next time, until next broadcast, I will probably hope we have some guests. But tune in. Till next time, take care and good night. Thank you for listening to another broadcast. And like always, comment, subscribe, and like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7. I'm hoping to hear from you on Twitter. And also leave a comment on every video upload, etc. Until next time, let the chaos reign!